So you're thinking about making a move here to the Myrtle Beach area? Well, today I've got 15 pros and cons. That's right, 15 pros and cons of living here in the Myrtle Beach area. I'm going to be breaking it down, getting real with you, sharing with you the good, the bad, and the ugly of what it's like to live here in the Myrtle Beach area. And well, we're going to be getting after it right now. Hey YouTube family, I'm Jeff Bueller with Living in Myrtle Beach. If this is your first time to this channel and you want to learn everything there is to know about living, working, playing, and well, simply living that beach lifestyle, well then you've come to the right place. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, tap the little bell. This way you're notified on all things living in Myrtle Beach. So today we're talking about the 15 pros and cons of what it's like to live here at the beach. Now, this is really just going to be my personal opinion on my experiences living here for the better part of 25 years. I'm sure you may have your own, thoughts and opinions and feelings on this, and I certainly welcome those in the comments below. Now, before I get started, I've got to give a huge shout out to all the amazing people that we've been able to help make their move. That's right, I'm going to be talking to you and you and you and you. If you too are looking to make a smooth move here to the beach, whether it's in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or better yet, schedule a Zoom call. We'd love to meet you. So I'm kicking it off with conveniences. I'm talking grocery stores, restaurants, shopping, pharmacies, medical centers, you name it, it's likely within 5 minutes of your home. As a matter of fact, within just a 5-mile radius of where I live, I have 6 grocery stores. I've got a Publix, a Kroger, 2 Food Lions, a Walmart, and an Aldi's. Now, I don't know about you, but I prefer shopping at the Publix grocery store. If you're not familiar with them, I think they're kind of predominantly here in the Southeast. I don't know what it is about the shopping experience there, whether it's the music they play in the background. I like that the aisles are a little bit wider. They have everything I need. They've got an amazing meat department and bakery, all that stuff. They pride themselves on their customer service, so the employees are just super friendly. And so whenever I go through there, I just feel nice and relaxed and calm in my shopping experience. Now, my wife, on the other hand, she's all about the Walmart. Now, we've got 3 different Walmarts here in our area. We've got the mega super Walmarts, and then we also have these like Walmart markets. They're really just grocery stores, and those are actually kind of nice as well. But the one that's close to us is kind of like right in the middle. They have the grocery, but they also have all the other shopping things, the clothing and like the home goods and the, whatever you need for the home, the toy aisles, the garden center, all that stuff. But I don't know what it is. Every time I go into the Walmart, like I seem to get the grocery cart where, the one wheel's like spinning out of control and the other one's just like stuck, and I'm trying to go right and it's going left, and I'll go in there, I'll grab like 1 or 2 things, and I'm like, all right, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm going to Publix. I don't know, that's just me. It is the furthest grocery store from us, but it's like an extra 2 minutes, and my wife swears that Walmart's cheaper, but I don't know, when we compare bills, it really doesn't seem to add up or save any for me. So now the other side of it is, when I go to visit my brother who lives in a rural area in Harford County, Maryland, they're out in the country. The conveniences for him, like a grocery store, is like 7 miles. Now, that's really not that far, but it definitely reminds me of the term a country mile, right? It just seems like that much further because we're going down these like windy, hilly roads. And there's no question that it's absolutely beautiful. It's green for days there, and you've got the the farm sceneries and cows and horses and everything, and it is gorgeous. But from a convenience standpoint, our grocery stores are right there. when we don't feel like cooking, which can be often, with 2 kids constantly on the go. There are restaurants just everywhere. We have dozens of restaurants, obviously from fast food, but fast fresh to everything in between. And so the conveniences are there. As a matter of fact, there's a Lowe's hardware store, which is maybe a little too convenient for me because, on a weekend when I'm supposed to be getting the honey-do list done, I always find an excuse that I have to go to Lowe's because it's just right there. And somehow I end up spending 2 hours in the Lowe's hardware store looking at, things that I guess I don't need, but as a man, you've got to look at all the tools. I always come home with at least one power tool, and it usually has nothing to do with the project that I'm actually supposed to work on. So when we're talking about pros and cons of living here in the Myrtle Beach area, well, for me, in my opinion, I'm definitely gonna have to give a check mark in the pro column of pros and cons living here in Myrtle Beach. So at number 2, I'm gonna have to say our weather. And this is probably the reason why the majority of people move here to the Myrtle Beach area to begin with. And if we break our weather down really through the course of 12 months, there's no question in the summertime it gets hot, right? As we get into June, mid-June, the temperatures really start to rise. By July, we're in the mid to high 90s. And then as we get into August, is usually when it's the most, humid and kind of, sticky out and really hot. But hey, we're here at the coast. We know how to stay cool. And as you get closer to the coast, along the ocean, of course, we get that nice breeze coming off the ocean to help cool things down. Not to mention, I'm gonna say the majority of all communities here in the Myrtle Beach area have a community swimming pool on one level or another. So there's always a way, to stay cool throughout the summer. And then if we look at the other parts of the month, I mean, gosh, through spring, we kind of have what I'd say an extended spring, throughout that time period where it's just absolutely gorgeous out. And then as we get into, the fall months, it's cool. It's in the 70s. It's super pleasant outside. And then even in the winter times, our winters are really condensed. As a matter of fact, this past winter, I thought it was one of the most mild winters that I can recall in a long time, where over Christmas, we were in, jeans and a t-shirt. It was super nice out, which in a way was a little unfortunate because, I do like to kind of layer up sometimes, have a nice flannel, maybe a jacket, but, those are in the closet, rarely get used, so if you're the kind of person that really enjoys the full array of all 4 seasons, and you want your full winter, you want snow, and then as you get into spring, you have your springtime, and the summer you have kind of a mild summer, and you have the full array of fall foliage throughout the entire fall. I don't know, but for me, in my experience living here, someone who enjoys the outdoors, getting outside, we're always active, we're always on the go. I don't think you can really beat the weather here. Even when it gets really, really hot, I just don't know that it's enough to say that, it's just too hot, that it's a con for living here at the beach. And there's no question, I do have a personal relationship with air conditioning and with the shade. I like to stay cool. But again, if I'm gonna outweigh the pros and cons when we're talking about weather, again, I think I'm going to have to put a check mark in the pro column for our weather. So we talked about the conveniences and the weather, check in the pro column. Now let's talk about the crowds. There is no question it gets crowded here along the Grand Strand. As a matter of fact, we have 400,000 plus residents throughout Horry County, and we welcome over 20 million visitors each and every year throughout the entire year. That is a lot of people visiting the beach. No doubt about it, it can get crowded. Let's talk about though the time of year and the areas and places. I feel like as a local, as I mentioned kind of earlier, right, when we talk about conveniences, I mean, everything's so close by. So, when you're looking to go out to eat, you have those restaurants that are right there close by, and it's likely you're going to be eating at more of a locally owned and operated restaurant. You're not going to be going downtown to the heart of Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, the Inlet, and those places where it's most condensed, and you're going to the tourist trap restaurants where you're having to wait 2 hours to be seated, which just is mind-blowing to me. That's just absolutely crazy. And then as we look at more throughout the rest of the year, more into the fall months, especially like November, I feel that that's when things really kind of start to settle down, and it's a great time to play tourist and go to some of those areas and actually enjoy those experiences of what we have to offer. As a matter of fact, every November, my family and I, there's a particular seafood buffet restaurant that we hit up every year. They have the all-you-can-eat crab legs. And I know we tried to go there once in the summer because we had family in town, and the line was literally like wrapped around the building. And I was like, no way are we going to go there. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. But in November, we can go there and we just walk right in, right up to the hostess stand, and we're immediately seated to our table. And when we go to get the crab legs, we're not having to elbow and fight for them. We can get them. It's leisurely. We really get to enjoy it. And I think the overall experience and the quality of food is just that much better. So again, when we're talking about crowds, yes, it gets busy. There are 20 million visitors here throughout the entire year. When we talk about the beaches, I think one of the main questions I get or kind of comments from people are, the beaches are just so crowded there. Well, yeah, you just stayed at one of the resort hotels, in a 6-mile stretch of resort hotels in July. Of course, when you go to the beach, it's going to be just bananas, with people on top of each other everywhere. But keep in mind, we have 60 miles of accessible coastline here. That's a lot of beach that you can access very easily. And so even in those, prime months in June, July, August, where it's most crowded in those areas of resort hotels, there are plenty of areas that you can get to that are just going to be the locals. It's the local beaches, and where you're going to feel like you've got, plenty of room. You're not on top of, other sunbathers. You can hang out. You actually have room to, throw the football with the kids, play soccer, play bocce ball, do all those fun things. So when we talk about crowds, I really think it's a matter of time of year and location, direct location. If you're in the heart of things where all the resort hotels are, yes, it's going to be absolutely crowded. If you go to the tourist trap restaurants in the summertime, yes, you're going to have ridiculous waits. But again, as a local, knowing that things are really convenient and close by, and you have some fantastic locally owned restaurants where you go in and you're going to have a reasonable wait time to be seated and getting around, I think it's convenient, as I mentioned in pro number 1. So I'm probably going to get a lot of slack on this one, but again, I welcome your feedback, your thoughts, your comments on this. But when we're weighing the pros and cons, I'm going to have to say our crowds really are not that bad when you know where to go, when to go, and how to go. So you're probably expecting a big X on this one, but I'm telling you, I'm going to have to put another check mark in the pro column when we're talking about the crowds for the Myrtle Beach area. And of course, with crowds, comes traffic. So let's go into pros and cons number 4, and that's going to be our traffic. Again, there's no question that it gets busy here. When we're talking about 400,000 plus residents throughout the county, 20 million visitors each and every year, the traffic is going to get congested. And I have to go back and say, as a local, navigating around, getting around town, we have so many conveniences so close by. So unless you're going, along 17, the downtown area where it's going to be the most congested. As a matter of fact, I think it's important to kind of understand our traffic patterns. It's actually pretty simple. Essentially along the coastline, you're going to have Ocean Boulevard, right? And that runs up and down right along the coast. And then parallel from that is going to be Business 17, also known as Kings Highway or Highway 17. And then parallel to that is Bypass 17. And of course, that's going to bypass all of that traffic. And then if you're going east and west is going to be Highway 501. And that's kind of our main point coming in and out of the beach. But of course, with growth, we have seen more infrastructure to help support those pain points, like Highway 22, that's going to be more the east and west getting out of the North Myrtle Beach area. Highway 31, which essentially is our beeline that runs from Little River on the north end as far down into Murrells Inlet and then dumping you out into the Pawleys Island area on the south end. And with that, you honestly can get from Little River to Murrells Inlet in like an hour easy, and the traffic is usually is not very heavy at all. It's essentially a freeway, so you're usually going 70-75 miles an hour down that, so it's really easy and convenient. And then from kind of a local standpoint, like with some of the communities throughout the Myrtle Beach area, we've also have seen widening projects of a lot of roads. Like for instance, Carolina Forest Boulevard in that area is now a 4-lane road. We see Robert Grissom Parkway, Robert Edge Parkway, a lot of these different kind of parkways that really help alleviate and differentiate almost kind of the local traffic versus some of the tourist traffic getting around the beach. So it helps kind of split things up. It helps for some better traffic flow. But I would say that's probably the biggest concern when we're talking about traffic, or what I've noticed the most is really traffic flow, especially for where we live. I have to travel up and down 501. And I take my 13-year-old who's in 7th grade, I take him to school each morning and regularly pick him up from school as well. And so what I found, of course, we're going to have your typical rush hour in the morning and rush hour 5 o'clock traffic in the afternoon. So for us on 501, there are like 3 or 4, actually 4 lights that we have to get through. And that really just kind of slows down the flow of traffic. But his school is right about 10 miles away, and it takes us right at 20 minutes, 18 to 20 minutes each morning. And that's with us leaving right about 7:20, 7:30. I found if I leave a little bit later, closer to 8, that's when traffic starts to tend to get a little bit busier, no question about it. But again, I think overall, of course, depending on where you're coming from, I've spoke about my brother and where he lives, basically in the sticks in Maryland. There's like no traffic anywhere. When I go to visit him, it's wide open. I think there are more horses and cows than there are vehicles. But I've also have family that I visit in Atlanta and Jersey and other parts of the country, in major metropolitan areas where the traffic is just absolutely nuts. As a matter of fact, when I had graduated college, I moved to Atlanta for a short period of time, and the traffic there totally different than here. And that's got to have been 15, 20 years ago. Well, 20 plus years ago now that I think about it. And even during that time, the traffic there was just too unbearable for me. It was like, I'm out of here. I'm going back to the beach. So when we're looking at pros and cons of traffic, I know you're probably expecting a con, but again, I'm going to have to give in the pro column, I'm going to give a check mark for our traffic. And again, it comes back down to knowing when to go, where to go, how to navigate, In the summertime, obviously there are going to be areas busier than others if you're in more tourist dense areas versus being more kind of in the suburb areas of the beach. That then brings me on to our next pro and con when we're talking about traffic, and I want to look at bigger picture. Of course, a lot of you relocating here, maybe from the Northeast, the Midwest, all parts of the country. And so for us, getting out of the beach with major interstates like I-95, for us, it takes us right at about an hour to hit the interstate for us to either head back north or if we're heading even further south. And I've never really felt that we've had any major issues trying to get out of the beach to get to the interstate. It's usually pretty smooth sailing most of the time to get there. Of course, once we're on the interstate and we get up to Virginia and then of course DC, Baltimore, all that, forget it, different story. So I think that even comes back to the local traffic here in comparison, why I've given that a pro in that box. But our highways or access to highways like 95 or like Interstate 26 to get west going into the Midlands of South Carolina or into the upstate if you want to really explore all of South Carolina, or I-74 going more northwest. So there are a lot of different interstates and highways that you can access. I'm going to say within about an hour drive to get to them, and then from there go out where you want. So when we're looking big picture with traffic, I'm also going to have to give that a pro, a check mark in the pro column. Now, if you're traveling even further out and you're flying, I am going to immediately give a giant check mark in the pro column for the Myrtle Beach International Airport. Now, I do kind of raise an eyebrow sometimes when we say international. I'm not really sure what qualifies an airport as an international airport, because Myrtle Beach is a pretty small airport, but that's what's so great about it. It's super convenient and easy to get to. It's super convenient and easy once you're at the airport, when you talk about parking and then actually getting into the airport. And then once you're in the airport, checking in and getting through security, which we know just kind of in this day and age is usually like the worst part about flying. But at the Myrtle Beach International Airport, I don't know that I've ever really spent more than 15 minutes having to wait through to get through security. It's usually like 10 to 15 minutes. I don't even know that I can recall a time where I've had to wait more than 30 minutes ever, and I do a fair amount of traveling. So the Myrtle Beach Airport, super convenient. There are over 50 plus nonstop flights. Of course, most of those are going to be fairly regional, right? Along the East Coast, the Northeast, the Midwest, Chicago, South to Florida, Atlanta, Charlotte. I think the furthest west it goes is going to be Denver, Colorado, which is actually something new. We used to have direct flights to Vegas, but as of this recording, we don't, and I'm pretty certain I've flown direct to Vegas. But when I kind of re-looked that up, there are no direct flights there. So if you're having to travel even further, kind of beyond that, you are going to the mountain regions of the West, or even, the West Coast itself, you're likely going to be flying to Chicago or to Charlotte or to Atlanta. And those are usually kind of the layover airports where you're having to still, change flights. You might have like a little layover. So sometimes that can be a little tiring. But as far as navigating in and out of Myrtle Beach Airport, it's so easy, so convenient. I love that airport. And again, as I mentioned, we do have the majority of the major airlines. We have American Airlines, we have United, we have Delta, and then we have, Southwest, which is kind of new to us in the past couple of years. And of course, we have some of those budget airlines like Spirit and Allegiant, which is also pretty nice, although they only have a few flights there. But it's just so funny because whenever we go to the airport, my wife still has like the mindset of we need like 3 hours, before our flight to go to the airport. I'm like, honey, I'll break it down. It takes us 30 minutes to get to the airport. Once we're at the airport, between parking, getting the kids, stuff together and bags and actually into the airport is like another 15, maybe 20 minutes. If I'm really going to give ourselves some time, okay, let's call it 30 minutes if I'm giving myself some extra time. And then again, to get through security is like 15 minutes. And then once you're through security, you have like one flight of steps, and then boom, you're right there at your gate. So it's not like you're having to go like 3 city blocks to actually get to your gate, and you're rushing and you're in a hurry. So it's super easy, super convenient. Love the Myrtle Beach Airport, love traveling there. So if we're talking about from a traveling standpoint, whether it's local traffic, yeah, it can be a little tough sometimes. Just do what my 13-year-old and I do. We actually have like an imaginary James Bond style missile launcher like right in the center console. So on those days when traffic is a little bit more heavy and hectic, we just start like blowing people up. So sorry if you're ever in front of us. We're behind you. We're probably hitting the missile launcher. It does sometimes help. And then traffic kind of getting out of the beach. Again, I feel like it's usually pretty smooth sailing and fairly convenient. And of course, the Myrtle Beach International Airport, as I mentioned. So you're probably expecting maybe some cons on our traffic here, but for local traffic, check. Traffic kind of big picture getting out, and certainly a giant check mark for the airport and flying. Okay, so we have 6 check marks in the pros column. And I know you're wanting to get down to the nitty gritty of what it's like living here at the beach. It can't just be all sun, surf, and sand. So let's get into an area that probably matters the most, and that's going to be money from a financial standpoint, and most importantly, a job standpoint here at the beach. What kind of opportunities are going to be likely available to you? So first, know that the largest employer for Horry County is the Horry County School District. So if you're coming out of school with an education degree, there's certainly likely to be a lot of opportunity for you there. If you're already a teacher, maybe just looking to relocate, certainly as an experienced teacher, there's going to be some opportunity for you as well. There's no question that we are a resort town. We rely heavily on hospitality and tourism, the service industry, the hospitality industry. So there's going to be an abundance amount of opportunity, from the service industry level to the hospitality industry level, and all levels in between. Big hotels, large, the corporate restaurant groups that own, dozens of different restaurants. There's certainly going to be opportunity for you there. If you are maybe coming out of school and you're looking to climb that corporate ladder, and you want to work in the big office, big building for a large Fortune 500 company making the big bucks, well, that's somewhere where we certainly fall flat on, no question about it. Those type of opportunities really just are nearly non-existent through our area. So if you are wanting to make that corporate climb, this area just may not be for you when we're talking about making the big bucks for sure. Our average salary throughout the Myrtle Beach area is right at about $60,000. So if that's an area that you're comfortable, a salary area that you're comfortable in, also knowing kind of the cost of living here obviously is a lot less expensive than most parts of the area. But either way, I think I'm going to have to give my first X into the con column of pros and cons living here at the beach. Now, if you're on the other end of that spectrum and you've already made your climb and it's now time to retire and live the good life, there's no question the Myrtle Beach area caters to that 55 plus retiree demographic. South Carolina itself is extremely friendly to retirees. We're very tax friendly, allowing you to stretch your dollar as far as it can go. Opportunity wise, living wise, there are tons of 55 plus communities, zero to low maintenance communities where you're not having to worry about mowing the lawn on a Saturday afternoon. That's all taken care of for you. Communities with resort style amenities for you. You know, patio homes, the condo market. There are plenty of condominiums if you're looking to downsize, live, that condo living. What I think is really neat, for example, my mom, she too is retired and lives in the area, and she's an artist. She is actually an amazing painter. And so she's been able to take art classes through the university for free. So there are a lot of different events and things like that again will really kind of cater to you as a retiree, allowing you to really stretch your dollar and really live the lifestyle that you're looking to live as a retiree. So if you're retiring here, well, of course, we're gonna have to put another check mark in the pros column of living and retiring in Myrtle Beach. So as we're talking about job opportunities and wages and salaries, and of course the benefits of retiring here, the cost of living is going to be a big part of that, whether it makes sense financially based maybe on your salary. So if we look simply at the housing market right now in the Myrtle Beach area, just on an average, the average sales price for a home throughout Myrtle Beach is right at $350,000. If we look at some other metrics like our gas prices right now, they're averaging right around $3.78 a gallon. The cost of milk. My family, they go through so much milk. I'm not really a milk drinker myself, but between my two boys and my wife, they're drinking like 3 gallons of milk a week. And a gallon of milk is just over $7. I think it's like $7.29 the last time I checked. So, cost of milk, cost of gas, house pricing at $350,000. But then when we look at, just kind of from a daily, like day to day, out and about, sometimes costs can be more expensive, again, as you're going, kind of more to the tourist driven areas. If you're going to, certain areas where it's going to be more heavily concentrated on tourism, when we're talking about restaurants and even gas prices, you're going to find that you're often going to pay a little bit more. You may pay those tourist prices. So certainly don't ever be afraid to ask for, locals discounts. A lot of times some of those places will give you like a 10% off discount to help save on that cost. But if I look at from a personal standpoint where we live, and again, going to more of the local restaurants and, the way that where we spend our money, I still feel that the cost of things are fairly reasonable. So from a cost of living standpoint, living here in the Myrtle Beach area, knowing that we're below the national average on an index of 100, meaning over 100, you're higher than the average. Below 100, you're under the average. We sit somewhere right around 85 out of 100. So we are below that index when we talk about the cost of living. And so I'm going to have to give a check mark in the pro box for cost of living. I'd love to know what you think about that. Kind of what have your experiences been, and maybe where you live. What are the gas prices right now and the gallon of milk? So I now want to kind of shift gears and go into the lifestyle of living here at the beach. And I mentioned weather's one of the number one reasons why I think most people make their move here to the Myrtle Beach area. I'm gonna have to also say that is part of the lifestyle. Things are certainly a little bit slower here. So if you're coming from the Northeast, if you're coming from New York, New Jersey, I know things just move maybe a little bit quicker. We talk a little bit faster and we get to the point. Right? I've got a lot of family. I was born in Jersey. I still have a lot of family up there, and I know they're just a little bit faster. Here, the lifestyle is a little bit more relaxed. We're in the South, we're at the coast, we're at the beach, and there's just an abundance of things to do here. The people are just going to be that much more friendly. So I'm going to say lifestyle. We're going right into a check in the pro column. Activities, things to do. You're never going to find a dull weekend here throughout the Myrtle Beach area, whether we're in Little River at the Seafood Festival, the arts and crafts festivals that they have here in Myrtle Beach. There's just always something going on every weekend. We feel like if we want to get out and about, and not just tourist driven things, but there are a lot of things kind of geared towards both locals and tourists that really make the community special. So as far as things to do, I'm giving a check mark in that box. And I mentioned the people. Honestly, one of the things I love most about this area, and I always say, everyone is from somewhere else here at the beach, right? Everyone's relocated from somewhere else. Yes, there are some locals here. I think maybe the next generation will kind of be the locals. My kids were born here. If they decide to stay, they can say that they were born and raised, in the Myrtle Beach area. But everyone really is from somewhere else. And the advantage and the benefits I see to that is I meet so many new people, and not just, through real estate, but also just through, peer groups, my kids' sports, those sort of things. When I look at my kids' sports teams, all those parents, they're from somewhere else. And it just makes it really easy, if you're open to it, to meeting new people, to making new friends, right? I think one thing that you're going to find is kind of the number one question you usually get is, where are you from? Right? Because again, everyone's from somewhere else, and then you're going to find that they're from like your hometown, and we just get into that butterfly effect of how small the world really is. So I'm definitely going to give another checkbox in the pro column for the people, for the lifestyle, and things that are available for us to do. Now, when we're talking about history, culture, and arts, well, I'm gonna have to say this is going to be possibly a con and where we fall flat. Unlike some of our neighboring cities, such as Charleston, South Carolina, further south into Savannah, Georgia, or just over the border in North Carolina into Wilmington, that are just very deeply rooted in their history and in their arts and in their culture, and they kind of have that vibe and that sense and that feeling in those districts. It's really something that we're not gonna find here at the beach. Now, for my family and I, it's an opportunity when we do visit those cities. I think that we don't take it so much for granted, and we enjoy it just that much more. I actually love going to Charleston. It's less than a 2-hour drive from us for like a little staycation. And there's no question, some of those, streets you can go down, cobblestone streets, and, I'll just like close my eyes and kind of envision myself, living back in the day of, maybe the Revolutionary War, and, just kind of those time periods in this, 1700s, and what that must have been like. And you look out over the harbor and you see like the big, sailboats, and it probably was just a spectacle of a sight. But for our area, when we're talking about history and culture and arts, and though we kind of have some of those on a small scale, small degree, I think if you're coming from an area where you really want to be immersed in that kind of diversity, it's somewhere where we are going to have to mark an X in the con column. Now, as we continue into things to do in the Myrtle Beach area, I'm a sports guy myself. My kids are, very athletic and into sports. I love my pro teams. But for South Carolina, well, it's just non-existent. And of course, obviously, then in Myrtle Beach, if you're a big NFL fan and you like to see live football games, especially now that we're back to being able to do that, our nearest NFL team is going to be the Carolina Panthers. And they're actually in North Carolina, which is about a 4-hour drive. And that's a bit of a hike to go see a football game. And of course, when you look at the cost of it, they are not cheap. If you're a baseball fan, Major League Baseball, I guess our nearest team is going to be the Braves in Atlanta. Hockey, I don't know, it's non-existent, right? MLS soccer, we have just now this year, Charlotte has the Charlotte FC team. But again, that's 4 hours away. The NBA, we have no professional basketball in South Carolina. Again, I think the closest you're going to have to go is to Charlotte in North Carolina for the Hornets. Now, what we do have is we do have all the minor and club league teams. So for baseball, we have the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, which is a blast to go watch. And of course, from a cost standpoint, so much more affordable to take the kids, especially when my two boys, they'll eat like 4 hot dogs a piece, and they're going to want popcorn, and they're going to want cotton candy, right? It gets really expensive. So I can take them there. It's enjoyable. It's a bit more affordable for myself. They often have, $2, beer days. They're always running some kind of special to make it affordable and fun for the family. When we talk about football, we do have our college sports. We have Coastal Carolina University. And as a Sun Pack team, they've really have proven themselves, to be a team to be reckoned with. And it's always so much fun to take them, to a football game, or to go to a football game if you're wanting, that live action sports. The same with their basketball team and their baseball team. As a matter of fact, Coastal Carolina, chance up. Right, go Chance. They are World Series champions for college. When we talk about other minor league sports, you can go to Charleston, which again, really Mount Pleasant, so it's just north of Charleston, about an hour and a half away. They have their minor league soccer team there, the Charleston Battery. They also have a minor league hockey team there, the Stingrays, and we've been there many a times. That's always a blast to go get right up on the ice. And again, you can get kind of those glass wall seats, and and they're really not expensive at all. I mean, they're usually like $40-50 a seat. I think that's pretty good. We recently were out in Austin visiting family and went to see the Austin FC soccer game, MLS. And we had a great time. It was amazing. That Q2 stadium is, it's world class, no question about it. But man, those tickets were pricey, especially for MLS soccer. Now, my kids are into soccer, my oldest especially, so we're soccer fans, but still, it's soccer, right? So when we're talking about pros and cons, I don't know. I'm kind of split on this one. You tell me, what do you think? Is having the college sports and the minor league and club teams, and considering the cost of, the pro versus the minor league teams, is it a pro or is it a con? Maybe it's just because I've lived here, long enough that I've really gotten a lot of enjoyment out of seeing those other minor league teams that, with the pro sports, it just hasn't become a big deal for me or not. But this is one I'm just really, really kind of split on, this one, as far as a pro and con. But if you are the type of person, you like to be, within, you can take like the subway or the train or whatever, and you can access a professional stadium, within, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Not happening. You're going to Charlotte, North Carolina, 4 hours away to see, any professional sports. So again, let me know what you guys think of this one. But I'm leaning a little bit maybe more towards the con side of that one. So now that's going to bring us into number 15. We've made it. We've got here. And I really appreciate you taking the time, spending some time out of your day on the pros and cons of the beach. And so number 15, I'm going to stick with the theme of things to do. And when we talk about our music scene. Now, again, if you're the type of person who likes to go see big headliner shows, large stadiums, it's somewhere where we may fall a little flat. Now, we do host the Carolina Music Festival, which is one of the largest country music festivals throughout the United States. I've yet to go to one. I do enjoy country music at times, and I see my friends post and all that, and they always tell me it's a killer time. They have a great time. Gets super crowded for sure, but it's a multi-day event. Otherwise, of course, there is no shortage of what I call good vibe music. You can go to any beach bar, somewhere along the waterway. We have, the House of Blues. We have a lot of different venues that will host, not necessarily, big headliners, but, some of those, some fairly large names, some popular names, but definitely no question you can go anywhere along the beach and just hear some good vibe type music from local artists and musicians. But the big headliners we really just don't have. Actually, I'm really excited. I'll tell you this story. I think you've noticed I kind of like to tell some stories here. My oldest son, who's 13, just turned 13 in March, actually on the 24th. And so that's way back, like the end of last year, like December, I had purchased, as they released, the Foo Fighters released tickets for their summer tour. And so here comes March. Finally able to give him these tickets. It's funny because he's 13. You would think, how would he know any of this music? He loves 80s and 90s rock music. And I think it's because like a year or two ago, he found my iPod from like when I was 20. And so we plugged it in and checked it out. Sure enough, it still works. But it's all like 80s and 90s, music, what I grew up on. But he absolutely loves it. So got him these tickets for Foo Fighters. And well, if you're a Foo Fighters fan, then that their drummer, Taylor Hawkins, had passed away. And actually, that was 2 days after I gave him the tickets for his birthday. So needless to say, he was super bummed. Obviously, due to the passing of Taylor, and also the fact that, this was going to be a big deal. It was going to be his first concert going to. We were actually going to head up to my brother in Maryland, and then from there go see them in Philly. And we're kind of foodies as well, so we thought, we're in Philadelphia, we're gonna have to get some cheesesteaks, right? I think the big debate is Geno's or Pat's. Love to know if you're familiar with either of those, who is your favorite. But I had to tell him, look, man, I'm sorry, but unfortunately this happened. So of course we were really bummed out. But I think what's funny is, so then as we kind of got through that, we're trying to decide, okay, where are we gonna go next? And it was hard to really think, find a band that was gonna kind of live up to that. But ultimately we decided on the stadium tour, and the stadium tour is going to headline Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, and Joan Jett. I think it's certainly going to be a spectacle of a show. I'm kind of hoping so. When I called my brother on that, he's like, yeah, Kai's into that. I was like, oh yeah, man, he digs 80s and 90s music. I like to say it's because I'm raising him right. I don't know. I'd love to hear who your first who your first band was that you saw live. How old were you? For me, I was 15 or 16 years old. I think I was actually maybe a sophomore or junior in high school, and I got to go see Chicago at Merriweather Post Pavilion in Maryland. Had a great time. That was my first concert at 15 or 16. So if these pros have outweighed the cons, or if there are any pros that you felt are cons, but you still want to make that smooth move here to the beach, Well, it's simple. Give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. Better yet, schedule a Zoom call. I love the face-to-face, would love to meet you. We'll help you out. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you at the beach.